Hey, everybody, and welcome to Notes from the Other Side. This is a podcast for people who love Jesus but have some real concerns about Christianity. Here at Notes, we take a microscope to some of Christianity's thornier topics and people using a progressive theological lens and a socio-historical approach to studying the Bible. So if that sounds like your jam, come on in and have a seat. But buckle up, it might get bumpy. All right, everybody, welcome back to Notes from the Burros.
On the other side.
Oh, yeah.
Maria.
No,
Burros notes.
I did it backwards.
Hee-haw, hee-haw.
Welcome. All right, everybody, welcome back to the Burros Notes
From the other side.
of Berea.
Do I finish it?
Yes, well, no, I did.
Do it again.
Okay.
I'm using all of these.
Good.
By the way.
Please do.
Every one of these.
Yeah. All right, everybody, welcome back to the Burros Notes.
From the other side of Berea.
Oh, yeah. Hee-haw, hee-haw.
3 takes. Lord.
Man. And it's really not even that good.
I would like to say that we're not normally
That
like
was a
this,
lot
but we're
of work.
absolutely normally like this.
Yes.
That's the thing. We absolutely are.
We're so sorry.
We're doing a
listeners.
hybrid. We've done a few of these.
Yes, we
We're
have.
doing a hybrid.
I'm
Notes
the
from other
electric part
side.
of the car,
Yes.
and y'all are the gas part of the car.
Big Daddy is the gas guy. Yeah, we're combining our shows
I'm
together.
glad I'm not in the room with the gas guy.
He's been in the car with the gas girl when we were in a band together, but that's a
Oh.
different conversation.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
We're doing a mashup episode.
That's right, we're mashing it up.
Now, if you've listened to Notes from the Other Side, I just released a mashup episode, a sandbox, if you will, that we did a couple of weeks ago.
Yep.
And we are back in the studio doing another Notes Burros mashup.
Yeah. We're on each other's podcast, but Tiziana likes to push the envelope
In a way that
all of
makes
my
Rick
listeners,
slightly
like,
uncomfortable.
hate.
I know.
Like they get
And his
mad.
listeners, but yeah,
I know.
some of the Burrows
Yeah.
are very uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Rick had to kick me out.
So we decided to do a mashup today because I have a very special guest, but we need to introduce everybody.
Dun, dun,
But we have a very special guest, and that's why we mashed this one up a little bit. So to my left is Billy Eye Candy Kimsey.
Like an almond joy, putting the joy in my mouth.
I'm going to say a little bit of nut on some nasty tasting fruit.
In your mouth? You're putting...
Now,
Sarita. The Honorable Sarita the Hammer Edgerton.
Hammer down.
Hammer down. Behind the glass, Rocket Man Andy Bishop. Big Daddy Carter.
oh, yeah.
And Tiziana, how are you momming so hard today?
Wait till your dad gets home.
Yeah, dude, when I was a kid, that
Yeah.
was a real thing. My dad, my dad didn't beat me with a belt, like he didn't, but he would beat the belt. You ever had that kind of
Oh,
a parent?
Oh, yeah,
Snap.
that
He
slap it.
snapped the belt.
Woo, I
He
can
would
hear
go
that
to
right
his
now.
drawer and get the belt, and it was unbelievable. The only time I was ever hit with a belt, the end of the buckle, the little sharp part went into my
Oh,
calf
yes, I've
muscle.
had it. I've had it.
Oh, dude, you guys.
And so I never got spanked again. It was pretty sweet.
Wow.
I had to go pick my own switch. So
Yeah,
Done that
the
too.
hickory bush.
My mom had a metal spoon, a slotted metal spoon that hung on the back door in the kitchen. And she would make you go get the spoon.
My nanny Welch had a wooden ladle with a hole in it, and she said she would whip me until blood would come through the hole. She never spanked me in my life, but that was enough.
Any story like this.
Unbelievable. So that's why it turned out the way it did.
Yeah, it wasn't
Yeah.
good enough.
Neither will my children, quite frankly. But
So you introduced the guest because what happened is I made Tiziana very jealous because I got to meet this wonderful lady on a Pentecost Sunday.
you're welcome.
It was fantastic. I loved every minute of it. And she invited me, and Tiziana invited me, and I was just so blown away by the whole thing. It was wonderful. And I told her as I was leaving, this is what I've been looking for. I haven't been back since. But just so you know, I do a lot of traveling, okay?
I found Eden, but I'm never going back.
It's like I've been looking for this my whole life. I will see you next year. So
Yeah.
take it away.
So
Tizi.
who we're going to be having a conversation with today is Pastor Sara Wilcox. She's the pastor of Land of Sky. It's a United Church of Christ congregation in Asheville, North Carolina. And since I didn't know she was going to be here today, until this afternoon.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
Surprise.
That is as prepared of an intro as I am able to give because I didn't do
Well, that's
enough
the beauty of a
research.
testimony episode because I want to find out everything I possibly can about.
I know. I'm very excited. Me too.
Hi,
frankly.
Sarah.
Hi.
Sarah Wilcox. So nice to have you here.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Thanks for going through all the traffic of Asheville to get over here into
that's
beautiful Hendersonville, North Carolina. So, TZ, one of the things that really impressed me, I just to start out with, was just how everybody was involved in that church. And so, like, the thing with the kids, like what you guys did, like you had balloons and all the kids were down there and they were just loving it. Like I was like, that's something that a lot of the churches that I visited, a lot of times they're more of like the older crowd and you don't see a whole lot of kids. And it's like, this is amazing. Like they're involving all of the kids and everybody was getting up and was talking. And it was just, man, it was a wonderful thing. It felt like, to me, it felt like what the early church would have felt like when everybody was gathered in. You know what I mean? Gathered together.
Yeah.
It was awesome.
Yeah. I feel the same way. I cried the first time the girls did communion because it meant so much to me to just like hold my little daughters and walk them through and like I'm gonna cry right now just saying it.
Yeah.
and like the people holding the bread and the cup, like, treating them like full people, treating them like full individuals that deserved to be there, and let them take their little bread and drink their little juice. And and that's in that same way. It just, it feels really authentic and it feels good to be able to have all the parts of me and my family be included in the church experience without it being, sort of these lines of delineation of who deserves and who doesn't deserve and who's allowed and who's not allowed in those experiences. So I really like that too.
Yeah, and we had that lovely couple from the church. It was Jesse and his wife.
Yeah,
Lynn, and then Yolanda was here for the Juneteenth episode, and they were just wonderful. And when I got to the church, like they just came right up to me and just made me feel at home, and it was just wonderful.
But we're here to talk about Sarah.
We are. I was just talking about it's just a church that's so welcoming. Have you ever walked into a church and people are like, hey, they shake your hand or whatever, but that's about it, and then you're just kind of like, you wonder if you're sitting in somebody's seat at their pew,
Because it is assigned seat.
We all sit in the same spot, but it didn't feel that way at all at this church. So anyway, all right. So can I call you Sarah?
Yeah, of course.
Okay. So we always ask our testimony guests the same question. Every guest gets the same one. Can you tell me, to the best of your ability, the earliest memory that you have of when you heard the name Jesus Christ?
So this is interesting because it's a memory that I discovered something. So the memory is actually in my adult years of me discovering something that speaks to my relationship to Jesus. I was in seminary, and during that time, my mom was moving out of my childhood home, and so she's boxing up stuff, and she hands me this box full of materials, and I'm looking through it, right, and I pull out this piece of paper, and it is a timeline. And it is a timeline I created when I was 8 years old. I know it's a timeline from when I was 8 years old because of the year it ended at, right? Yeah. And then at age 5, it says, when I gave my life to Jesus. Ah. Which at like age 27 or so, I was like, that is not what I would say today, right? That's not how I would say that.
Right.
But it was interesting because I was like, what is this? This is very interesting. And so I took it to my mom and I said, so what happened here? Like, what's the story? And she said, well, we lived in Dallas at the time and we had seminary students who were staying with us from Dallas Seminary. And you met this missionary couple. And by the time they left, you were ready to give your life to Jesus. Yeah. And so you did. And I was like, wow. And that's sort of a love affair that never ended, right? Like I have a just deep, abiding love for the person who is Jesus Christ, for the stories of his life, for the ministry that he led, for the death that has profound meaning and still has profound meaning to this day because we participate in it over and over. But yeah, I remember when I went to my mom and said, I think I'm going to go to seminary. She was like, oh, yeah, that's not surprising.
Wow.
Like, I was, and she said to me, you were like my soul kid, like in a different way than your sister. You just accessed things or felt things in a different way.
Yeah.
So
were you raised in a Christian home then?
Absolutely. I was raised really in the PCUSA, Presbyterian Church, but I was born into a family where my mom was Methodist, grew up Methodist, and my father was Catholic. So I always like to say to people, I was baptized Catholic for my grandma, just in case. And I'll let you guys know if nobody else gets there. I'll be there, apparently, according to the Catholics. So every week we went to church. My parents were divorced when I was born. I was raised by my mother, but in relationship to my father. My father maintained his Catholic faith throughout his life, and my mother took us to, like, in Dallas, we were at St. Barnabas Presbyterian Church, and then I grew up in Fort Lauderdale at the First Presbyterian Church in Fort Lauderdale. When I went to college, I looked for the First Presbyterian Church in Charlottesville, Virginia. I was kind of very aware that if you are looking for a church that's like your First Presbyterian Church, you should just go to another First Presbyterian Church, and chances are really good they're going to be very similar. And that rang true. I attended that church through college. I went to graduate school in Wisconsin to do a PhD in political science, and I ended up leaving that, discerning my call to ministry. But when I went there, my mom recommended to me that I try out the United Church of Christ. I became very confused about the church. I think actually that confusion started when I was about 13 years old. I have, like, very distinct memories of Sally Struthers walking up to the railroad crossing in Africa, and the little African children behind her with distended bellies. Yeah. Oh, yes. Oh, yeah. And I just remember thinking, like, what the hell?
Yeah.
I'm like, is this where's God in this?
Yeah.
Like, this doesn't make any sense to me. So very early on had lots of questions, and was blessed to really grow up in a church that honored questions, right? And the PCUSA is really actually very good about its Sunday school, its religious education, and questions. I was never in a place where my religion felt painful or toxic. I always felt like it was life-giving, but I always had questions, and I didn't always have the answers. The answers that I was being given in those places were not always right for me. They just did not resonate with my life, my experience, and my understandings.
Can I just say how rare it is to have a testimony series of an individual that talks about how pleasant and non-toxic their childhood and experience of Christianity
was?
was?
Yeah, that's very different.
Yeah.
That's unusual. Like, so
Probably
many
the
of our
first
guests.
one. Probably the first one.
I'm racking my brain because so many guests come in with a story of, like, my childhood experience was toxic, or the people that took me to the church experience was very different from who they were at home. And so it created this dissonance. And then I left the church, and then I came back. There's always this, like, very dramatic arc. And I'm like, how did you do that?
Yeah.
How did you not?
Well, and it's interesting because I don't know that it's not, I might minimize my own church experiences' toxicity because I pastor people whose toxicity is so great.
Yeah.
Like, they have experienced such painful, harmful churches and communities. But I did. So, like, I grew up in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. And I grew up in Plantation, which is actually a suburb of Fort Lauderdale, Florida. And it is on the western side of I-95. And so in many ways, I grew up on the wrong side of the tracks to my very wealthy church, where most of the people left after service and went to the yacht club. And I was the child of a single mom. And so I had a very kind of milquetoast, nothing's real painful, but there were dynamics that were like, this doesn't feel right either. There's something like, there is an in crowd here in a way that I think Jesus does not have an in crowd. This feels like high school and middle school at church.
Yeah,
That's
or like
weird.
Paul when he's talking in Corinthians about people coming to the Lord's Supper because there was the working class in early Christianity was like breaking bread and having experience with the upper class. And that was one of the things that made the early church movement so beautiful and special in the highly stratified culture of Rome. But Paul had to, like, correct the very rich people because they was like, look, the working class folks are getting here after you and y'all done ate all the food and that's rude.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So there's some of that, some of those sort of class issues.
There were class issues. I think I became aware of I wouldn't have had this language, but the the distinction between charity and justice. I went to a church that was very good at charity, but didn't ask a lot of questions beyond it. And I grew up and watched the world and went to college and was like, I want to know why the kid is behind, why Sally Struthers went to Africa and took a camera crew to capture that kid's distended belly. Like,
And then use it to ask you for money.
yeah, why didn't she feed that distended bellied kid, right? Like what's going on? And there's an actual really great NPR podcast that happened. It was Carlton Pearson, but I don't know if you know his story. He's an African-American man and ended up becoming a part of the United Church of Christ. But he tells a very similar story about sitting in he was a Pentecostal preacher. He was in the conservative church, and he sat in his mega mansion and saw the same similar kind of situation and was like, we have created hell right here. Like, hell exists. Why are we all worried about the hell we're going to? This is hell for a lot of people. And the way we're living our lives in relationship to each other creates it. So what does it mean to be in a religion where we emphasize all the things that continue to reinforce our privilege and our chosenness? And to do it at the expense of other human beings who are all around us. The other thing I would say is I had a very helpful mom in my childhood who did this. Like, I remember my mom used to travel for her job, and we had this nanny, she paid a service to send someone over and stay with us while she was gone. So one of the older women who came to stay, Beulah, I remember her, and I grew up in South Florida, so a good population of Jewish folks down there, and a lot of them are my friends. And I remember when I was must have been late elementary school or early middle school, Beulah was very concerned about my Jewish friends. And Beulah told me that she just wanted me to know that I probably needed to speak to them and let them know that they needed to accept Jesus Christ as their Lord and Savior if they ever wanted to get to heaven. And I was like, huh? Like, that is not how I learned that's not how I learned my religion. Like, that's not what I was told. And so I then remember going to my mom and being like, Mom, Beulah said this. And she goes, yeah, we don't believe that. And I was like, okay. So,
Scratch that.
I had and she's a theologically curious woman. She was a Sunday school teacher in the Presbyterian Church. She led the adult spiritual formation. She did a lot of research and had a lot of knowledge about the Bible. And she had come to these conclusions, and those things allowed her to shape us in profoundly healthy ways.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, do you mind if I dig down a little
Sure.
bit more? Okay, so you said that your father was Catholic, and that your grandmother, which I assume was his mother, you got baptized to make her happy, right? But you also said you were raised by a single mother. So, is there a divorce prior? Did you live through a divorce?
Yes, my parents were divorced when I was born.
When you were born.
Yep.
Okay, so you still had a relationship with your father, and so this desire to pull you to go get baptized in the Catholic Church to make her happy, was that your father that's doing this?
Oh, I think my father and my mother just probably conceded. I don't know that
Okay.
there was a whole lot of stress around it. In the Methodist Church, they also baptize infants. So so do they in the Presbyterian Church. And believers' baptism is not really the way most mainline Protestant.
So you're talking about baptism at birth, when you were a baby?
Yes.
Or is
Oh,
it
okay. I thought it was
Would that be
something.
a
Okay.
patter
I'm thinking like a
baptism or
Baptist.
something?
Pedo.
Christening?
Yeah, pedo baptism.
Yeah, pedo baptism versus adult.
Or we just call it infant baptism.
That's right.
Real simple.
Like,
I'd rather misspell that word, because that's what I do. I always misspell the word. I don't know
Yeah.
why.
yeah.
Yeah.
Because it's not spelled like you think it is, right? Isn't it Paedo or something like that?
But I didn't realize
Paedobaptism?
that. So a lot of Protestant mainstream churches, because I grew up in a tradition that baptism was part of your confession of faith. Confession of faith first, baptism second. I didn't realize that there was a number of Protestant congregations and denominations that still practice infant baptism.
Yeah. So this is really an interesting thing that also parallels a little bit of the story of Land of the Sky, because when Amanda and she's the co-founder of Land of the Sky with me when, and she grew up in the Methodist tradition and also had an infant baptism, but she wanted her 2 children to choose their baptism. She wanted to do a baptism that was closer to believer's baptism, even though I don't think we would technically call it believer's baptism, because it's not, because it's hinges on belief versus discipleship. But what's interesting is that we then struggled to figure out, how do we manage a church where some of the kids are getting baptized as an infant and some of them are getting believer's baptism? And then what is the container of confirmation? Because in most Reformed churches, right, we do a confirmation. That confirmation is the confirmation of your baptism, because the baptism is taken the vows are taken by your parents on behalf of the child. And then the confirmation is to confirm your baptismal vows. If you've already been baptized, then you don't need to be, if you're choosing your baptism at 12, then you don't really need confirmation, except for confirmation is different than baptism. It holds a whole process of theological development, questioning, curiosity, and shaping of theology that's deeply important.
Yeah.
So we are actually still wrestling in our church. We're 16 years old. I'm not stressed about it. I always think we're 16. We're like footloose and fancy free. We just got to drive and like, don't worry about us. We'll be fine. But we're still, I remember the first confirmation class that happened, and we've, I think, done one. It was when Amanda was here, which was 8 years ago.
Oh, wow.
And Amanda, at the end, she sat with me and she's just like, I don't think these kids got what I got in my confirmation. And that's an interesting thing, because all the time people say, I want a youth group like I had when I was a kid for my kids. And I'm just like, okay, that's not how it works, right? Like it's not going to be just like that.
A lot of cheesy VHS tapes on Sunday night.
You don't want any
Also,
Veggie Tales?
The difference between
Veggie Tales anyone?
the difference between what you remember of your own childhood and how things actually were is probably irreconcilable.
Oh my
Yes.
gosh. Absolutely. Absolutely. And Amanda, one of the things I said to her was, and this I think is just true writ large so I really talk with my hands. So this doesn't work well with a microphone in front of me. I'm just,
You're not the only one.
Not the
Trust
only
me.
one.
There's a lot of handling the mic around here.
so,
Hey,
anyway.
Mike, could you give her the boom? Could you lower the boom?
I'll be
for
fine. But I remember saying, like, so this is not the only time these youth will be shaped spiritually. And it's something I like to remind people all the time. Like if you're doing a kid's sermon, there is this feeling, particularly if you're in the progressive church, you are like, oh, I just said this word, and then I just said this. I have got to hit all of I gotta explain salvation. I then gotta explain pneumatology. I gotta explain Christology. And you're just like, okay, you do not. Right? Like you do not need to handle all this. The assumption that someone is there once and never again is a bad assumption, and it drives bad ministry, right? Like, and an assumption that you have to be the only community that shapes someone for them to be on the right side of things is also a bad sign for ministry. I was standing with my admin the other day, and it was funny because I said, that'll preach. But I was like, we were talking about people who come to our church, and we have people come to the church all the time who are deeply wounded by the church. And she says, the sign of a healthy community is that you can leave it with your life intact.
That's good.
It's the point of the gates being open all the time.
I like that.
Yeah.
And so, like, it's the difference between, like, a religion where you're truly being able to, you're free, you're truly liberated, and one that has actually got you caught in a story that you couldn't possibly question or get out of without being harmed.
Yeah, without losing your life.
Your life, your community, your your connection to God.
Oh, yeah. I'm just remembering going through it and having like a moment. Yeah, it's horrible. It's just awful.
And that's when you were saying that about ministry, I've found that to be true. I've primarily been in Southern Baptist churches, right? So there was a lot of preaching to the choir, and there was a lot, there might have been a visitor at that church. And so this whole message is now being catered to that one person that could die and go to hell. And that's so you almost hear the same sermon every single Sunday. And and that's just, again, I'm not trying to just be negative and critical. I'm saying that's just the experience. It's the experience that I kept having over and over and over, to the point where it was like, I don't want to listen to this anymore. Like, it's the same thing every week,
It's interesting.
You get locked into that.
Well, it's interesting because I'm thinking like, oh my gosh, every time they were preaching to me.
Yes.
I didn't even realize.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like I did not. I just spent my time there like, oh my gosh, will this ever stop? Right? Like I have sat through, I remember going to a wedding where the pastor, just went on and on about the sins of these two, how horribly depraved they were. And I was like,
A wedding?
this is a wedding, dude. And like how, if they did not give their lives to, I was like, is this an altar call? I'm so confused. What is happening here?
Yeah.
But just thinking, meanwhile, I think he was preaching to me. Anyway.
Still the same sermon.
Yeah, right? Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, and I will tell you, I remember I got invited to a East Asheville. I shouldn't be so open to but I got invited to the Lenten Holy Week to preach, right? And I was like, I'll take Thursday because, like, I feel like Maundy Thursday is probably the least, I could be least offensive
populated,
there.
yeah.
I could be least offensive to the folks here. And this young gentleman who preached from the Southern Baptist Church on Friday, that's all he preached. It was just and it's Good Friday, let's be real. He preached atonement theory. Surprise!
Yeah.
Which makes sense as the scripture of the, or of the emphasis of that. But it was like, I sat in it and I was just like, this is not, how do you get out of this with your life intact?
Mm-hmm.
How do you question this? And it was interesting as I was thinking on the way here about faith and works.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that Marcus Borg says, progressive theologian, but is that we basically trade that, like the idea that not faith without works is dead, James, right? But the idea that grace covers all, right? Is that we
Right.
trade that. It's not about what you do. It's solely God's grace, except for it is what you do. It is what you proclaim, what you believe, right? So we just traded it for something else. And the deal is that faith and salvation by works, right, is transactional. And the problem with the works being the way you achieve salvation isn't that it's works achieve salvation. It's that it's transactional, that nothing with God is transactional. And so in the same way, every time we set up a story that's transactional, we have set up the story to actually rob God of the truth of divine goodness, of grace, of love. And we've set God up as like a
tit for tat.
Yeah, as like my
As a petty
teenage
tit for
kids.
tat. Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm just like, whoa.
Very
Yeah.
pharisaical.
So confusing how we get stuck in these stories. We are stuck in a moment where there are like vast amounts of human doing damage to the world through policy, through positions in their claims of what God is requiring of them. There are people of faith responsible for how we are treating our immigrants and our nation right now. This is not negotiable. It is all over the scripture. It is clear. Leviticus is clear. We treat our foreign neighbors as native citizens.
Leave the gleanings so that they can have something to eat.
And
don't despise them collecting the gleanings.
We are in a very dangerous place where we have set up a faith to serve the privileged and the powerful. And then we reinforce our privilege and our power, and we say it's God.
And you bringing up Leviticus, right? That's fine for the kingdom of Israel, but we live in America, and America has its own set of laws. We like to call ourselves a Christian nation, but we're not.
Correct.
Okay, so we have these laws, like these immigration laws. Like, my heart is, I would let an illegal alien live in my home with me, but I would also demand that they follow our law because this is the law of the land. And so if they're going to be like thrown out of the country, I don't want to be, I'm not trying to get into all this right now. I'm just saying, my point is that that's the struggle with law. That's always been the struggle with law, wherever you are. And the tit for tat that we have like in everyday life or whatever, to me, it doesn't fit anywhere in the gospel. Back in Jesus's time, there were distinctions based on race and like the diaspora of their time, because of the Assyrian Empire and all that. And Jesus was going after them and going into Samaria. He himself had been an immigrant, right? He had went into Egypt and then came back, and their life and the way we read the Bible, we always, for whatever reason, we want to pull it out of time and like bring it into modern, and we can't. It really doesn't work that way. It does in our heart, but not necessarily in the laws of our land. Do you understand what I mean? Like the only way that, if you want change, you got to do what Sarita does. You've got to go and you've got to get up there and you got to make the change in the big place where the big laws are made. See what I'm saying? Or you can, am I making any sense to you?
Yes.
I'm bringing it back to you. My point was, like, if Sarita saw something in her community or whatever, or there was people like in her district that the majority of these people, were thinking, we don't like the way that our laws are written or the way that we're being governed, right? So she felt called and led to go and to govern and to speak for the people that voted her in, right? So, no, I don't want to get lost in the weeds in this, but when she mentioned Leviticus was particular. It was for a particular people of the time, And whenever, like, if we try to bring that to the modern time, it just doesn't work. But grace and love and Christ does. It works, and it will work everywhere. But if you have an illegal
Undocumented.
Undocumented. What does that mean?
It's the kind of the
It's the PC word for illegal.
Yeah, it's the kinder human way to
Well,
say
it's
a
a
person
civil-
being who's
it's
come.
a
Yeah,
civil-
it's like
That's fine.
undocumented.
I mean,
I'm
it's
sorry.
undocumented. It's not
I'm not trying to be-
illegal. Suggests
I'm not
a
trying to be-
crime.
I'm not trying to be
and
ugly.
It's not civil.
Yeah.
It is
It's a
civil-
misdemeanor.
Yeah,
It is a misdemeanor
That's fine.
to be undocumented, but it's just the way that we try.
Right. And so it's no different than any of our other laws that we have. If we have speeding, we get in trouble. It's a misdemeanor unless we do it 10 times and then it becomes a felony or whatever. I don't know how it works. I'm only bringing this up because it gets weird when we start playing with Leviticus. You know what I mean?
Okay, so hold on though, because here's where this I think is a problem.
Okay.
So I'm all for Jesus.
Yes.
Right, but Jesus was shaped by Jesus's faith tradition,
100%.
which was the scriptures that
100%.
we find in the Old Testament. Also, what you have in the Hebrew Bible are lots of different authors, but still also kind of different strains.
Mm-hmm.
One is a prophetic strain and one is a priestly strain. The Leviticus is the priestly strain.
Right.
The folks who are most concerned about the things covered by Leviticus and the priestly purity culture, right, are the same people who wouldn't allow Leviticus to guide them in this area.
Okay.
There is a failure to be consistent. It lacks integrity. It certainly, I mean, just across the board, you can't proclaim the ways of Christ Jesus, grace, love, peace, by by going to ICE check-ins and taking moms from their family, by putting people without following our laws through due process. So we've got a problem, which is the Christian tradition, which was co-opted. It was co-opted by Constantine. It is a story that is co-opted in service to power all the time, and it is currently co-opted in service to power, and greed, and might, and that is evident everywhere you turn. You can't sell Bibles. You can't, with your picture in them and the U.S. Constitution, those are not you can't do that. You can't use Jesus as your mascot. Like, Jesus is who you follow. His call was to follow him. And when you are so distant from the ways of Jesus, then you have lost the purpose of, he didn't start the Christian church. He wasn't a Christian. He was a Jew, and he was a Jew of the prophetic strain, not the priestly strain. He called his faith tradition to task. All that was in his entire ministry was calling his faith tradition to task, which I think is interesting because it means that Christians today calling our tradition to task for the ways that it is failing, the way it has bowed down in idolatry to purity culture, they are also lost. The good news is God goes after the lost, that Jesus will hunt us down and go after us.
That's good.
The grace follows us.
So how did you get from political science to divinity? How did you get from this faith tradition where you were a kid and you're being raised in the Presbyterian church, and where'd you get a undergrad?
University of Virginia.
University of Virginia, and you found a church there. And then from there you continued on. I want to hear the story of what happened in your life that you were on this path of politics.
Yeah.
And then there was a gigantic
Get it back
shift.
to testimony. I like that. Unfortunately, it's going to go back to a little bit of politics because I have my BA is in political science and the PhD I was doing was in political science. So
And when was that?
I just like the fact that the guest recognized the turn. That she's trying to rein it back in, and she's like, "I'm going back where I was."
Well, I mean,
If we want to have a larger conversation.
You tried, but
Great try.
I'm trying to remind us that this is a story about Sarah's life and who
but
she
this is
and how
good. You
she
just
got where
heard
she's
what
going.
Sarah is passionate about. What she just said, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
She recognized the turn. She knows what's
yeah,
up.
that's okay because I mean we're gonna get right. It's just a U-turn, right? We're just going that way. We're gonna come right back. But here's the story. So I was a graduate student in political science. Both my BA and my PhD's foci were in constitutional law. And I was deeply interested in American constitutional law and political theories of justice. I'm also an 8 on the Enneagram. All of this I learned later, and I'm like, oh, justice and fairness. I get it, right? Like there's something in me that's very concerned about the world being just and fair. I was a political science graduate student, teaching assistant, and I had taken a job at the UCC church that I was at, and I was the interim youth director. And I went to 2 different mission trips that summer. I went to one in Duluth, Minnesota, and it was hosted by a small, I forget the name of it, but like a small outfit. Like, some of these mission projects are like 400 kids dropped into a city.
Yeah.
This one was like 100 kids. Had like 4 people running it. It was part of a larger group with lots of different places you could go, but they were all young. And I looked at this group of young people and I was like, oh my gosh, young people are in ministry?
Oh.
Because interestingly enough, particularly in the mainline church, like most of our pastors are old white guys
Right.
too. Like they're not young. They're not young hip guys. They're just old white guys.
I can't remember when the first time I saw a pastor that was not under like 55. That you know what I mean? Like
right.
In my life,
So the UCC church that I had attended when I was doing my graduate work, there was a woman associate pastor. And so that sort of was like this is where representation matters, right? People act like it doesn't matter that a black man was president. It matters, right? It will matter when a woman is president. It mattered to see, like my imagination, your imagination is only as big as you've seen so far.
Yeah.
Like it is hard to imagine bigger. And I just sat there and I thought, oh my gosh, they're young. And it turns out they're female. And oh my gosh. And so I sort of like, I remember calling my now husband and saying like, I think I'm supposed to go to seminary. I don't think I'm supposed to be, I don't think I'm supposed to finish this degree. I went back and I was in that classroom that year. It was at the University of Wisconsin, and UW is a fairly liberal campus. And so if you are tasked with political science 101 and being a teaching assistant, your job is not to teach people what your politics are, right? It is to teach people to be critical thinkers. So when we talk about issues of the day and everybody lines up behind the liberal position, then I get to speak to the conservative position. And smart people can speak to both of those. People who are curious, right? People who've thought enough about the issues can at least acknowledge both sides of it. Mm-hmm. That's what you're trying to teach kids to do, because they'll never get to another story.
I feel like it's something that's been lost in our country, but meaning that it's become so polarized. I felt like maybe when I was in my 20s that there was like a genuine respect across the aisle. Do you follow what I mean? Like one of the things, he ran for president, and he was kind of like the middle ground guy from Arizona, John McCain.
Oh yeah.
He to me, it was like he would try to like cross the aisles and stuff. But when you're saying like you're being intelligent and speaking from both sides, I always felt like maybe it's just me. I feel like it doesn't feel that way anymore. It feels like you're so wrong on the other side, like you're not smart or something. You know what I mean? Like people are being that way towards each other. Maybe they don't.
Well, I mean, there's a difference between civility, right?
Yeah,
which
sure.
I think we've lost for sure, and a refusal to be critical thinkers. Mm-hmm. And I do think that we've lost some of that too. I think there is a dismissal of expertise and of sort of concern about elitism
vaccines.
And right. Yeah.
It's just like,
I mean,
okay,
there's this great, I don't even know who she is, but she's this woman on the Instagram, and I'm mostly the Facebook because I'm a Gen Xer, but she's a public health person, right? And she always she does these stitches of these people who are like, did you know that this is in your Lucky Charms? And that we're going to Home Depot. And this TPH is also strips your floors, and you can buy it at Home Depot. You're eating toxins, right? And she's like, okay, baking soda can clean your house and it's used in your muffins. It's a both and, right? So there's a whole thing about confirmation bias. There's a great book by Monica Guzman called I Never Thought of It That Way. And she talks about the sort of just our default to our own systems of thinking and sort of the need to be more curious. Mm-hmm. So I'm always interested I was talking to my admin today because it was like our first year check-in or whatever. And I was looking at the notes I took when she applied for the job, and it said you would be a bonus if you were theologically fluent. And I said, you're theologically curious. That might even be better. Right? I think in this moment, theological curiosity may be more important than theological fluency, because if we are so convicted about this one thing, right? If we don't come to it with some humility, and I think there's a lot of room for humility in the Jesus story. I don't think it can involve being cruel or inhumane to other people writ large. I don't care if our laws are broken or not.
Okay.
I think we shouldn't be, I think the death penalty is a problem. Because it doesn't actually, it's a inherently used in a way that's harmful.
Evenly.
Yeah. I mean, there's just stories behind it. The realities behind it suggest there's a problem in how it's being used. Everyone in this room is less likely to get the death penalty than someone who has black skin. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Same crimes committed, right? It's a unfortunate, and it doesn't matter if there are more crimes committed by one or the other. Everyone should be equally likely to get the same punishments. That is what is fair. Also,
right.
Back to 8 on the Enneagram.
Let's use a catchword. It's like DEI for prosecuting people. Only how about that? Why is that not a problem? That's not applied evenly, but apparently that's terrible everywhere else. It's only when it's to the advantage of this particular group that it needs to be eliminated. And I am of that group. Hey.
Yeah, I mean, how do you find, hold on. Hold on.
I was like, let me tell you about that political science classroom I was in.
Yeah,
You sure you don't want me to go back to that one?
Oh, I'm
Okay, go
I'm
on.
hanging on to this nugget
I
about
tried.
like
I tried.
persecuted Christian minorities that seem to be thrown up when people want to feel like they're in the minority and then not talked about in other cases. Like, why is that so precious to some people to be this past as a persecuted minority? And you're just like, okay, let's try to reflect. Let's try to put that on somebody else. Yeah, but people don't. They just bring it up when it's convenient to talk about past persecution for themselves. You're just like, come on.
Yeah. Let's go back to that moment whenever you were
Hanging out in Michigan.
you were saying that you looked at these young girls that were in ministry, and so that's when you have this moment, you're like, wait, right? Has that moment stayed with you? Like,
Sure.
do you still feel like that when you made that decision, like you're still honoring that moment? Was that your call?
Oh, yeah. So I think no.
Okay.
Right. So I was in this political science classroom and we were talking about the war in Iraq.
Okay.
And so I was defending the war in Iraq because that was my job,
Okay.
to give the other side. And like halfway through it, I went, okay, I cannot do this. I am not supposed to be here. I cannot stand here and give you mistruths about why we would be justified in doing this as a Christian. Like war is not the work of Christians. I mean, it is the history of Christians, but it is not the work of Jesus. And we ought to be very, very conscious when we defend our participations in it and the ways in which our history in the military-industrial complexes is painful, what we've done. But here I am. I'm not going to do this. Like, this is not what I'm supposed to do. I left that and I thought, I'm not supposed to be here. My job is actually, I trust that my husband, who is a professor, is teaching his kids critical thinking. And that is not my job. I need critical thinkers in order for them to engage theology well. I think it's hard. I think part of what is so easy about so much church for so many people is it's given to them and they just have to receive it and they have to live in the bubble and they don't have to do any work. And I think God is bigger than that. God wants our participation. God doesn't want our transaction. God wants our transformation. God wants us in relationship with one another, with creation, and with the one who is other.
Yeah. So you get that, you make the decision, I'm going to seminary, right? So so take us there. Tell us, like, where did you go to seminary, and then bring us up to the present.
What year was that?
2000.
Tell us how old you are, will you?
I know not.
I
Great-
think it was
great job, Billy.
2005, 4,
She said Gen
2004
X.
maybe I started.
She said Gen X.
I think it was 2000, maybe it was 2006. It's a good question. So I got married in 2004 and I had started, so it was 2004. It was fall of 2004.
Okay.
Maybe. Anyway, I'll do it back by years that would be right. I was trying to think how many years I was in my PhD program. So I was in that program for 6 years. Then I discerned my call to ministry. I started seminary at the end of would have been my beginning of my 7th year. I went to seminary in Chicago at Chicago Theological Seminary. It is a UCC-related seminary. It is not the University of Chicago. It is right next to the University of Chicago. And in fact, the building that was Chicago Theological's building was sold after I graduated, and it was sold to the University of Chicago. And the University of Chicago built the Chicago Theological Seminary, an entire building south of the Midway Plaisance, and rents it to them for $1 for 100 years. And I'm always like, why do people do these deals? Like, somebody's going to be there at the 100-year mark, and they are going to get screwed. So, but I went to seminary there. I was a commuter. My husband was working on his PhD in geology at the time, and we would the way that Chicago set its classes up was in blocks and long classes, 3-hour blocks once a week. So you could set up your schedule to kind of show up and do 2 or 3 classes over a 24 to 36-hour period. So I would drive down there. I'd stay the night, 1 or 2 nights, and then I'd drive home. And during that time, I had my firstborn. And then we moved right as I finished to, maybe we moved the year I was finishing. So the year before I finished my degree, we moved to Asheville. And I needed to complete my contextual education. My contextual education was a ministry internship. I did that in Wisconsin before we moved, but I needed to do CPE, which is your clinical pastoral education. So I did CPE in Spartanburg at Spartanburg Regional, and drove down the mountain and came up. And then I graduated at the end of 2008, in the middle. And then in 2009, I was ordained. 2008 began a conversation with Amanda and I about planting a church.
Okay.
That was fast.
Well,
So did you pastor anywhere in between, or you just got ordained and then you started a church?
actually, the ordination thing's very interesting because unlike some, let's say, non-denominational or evangelical churches or Baptist churches, the ordination process in the United Church of Christ is tied to a church. And if you are a church plant, you're not a church. So you can't get ordained into a church plant. You'd have to get ordained into something else. So I was actually ordained into chaplaincy, which was fine. I was doing chaplaincy then. But it is a little weird thing about church planting within the United Church of Christ because it's not a good hiccup in the polity, right? You should be able to do church planting as your ministry and be ordained.
Sure.
But I during seminary was an interim at a church in Wisconsin after I had did my internship at a different church. And then when we moved here, I was doing CPE, and part of CPE, some people do residencies, but I needed 1 unit, and that 1 unit's called an extended unit, and you can do your class and your practical kind of stuff and your community at the hospital, but they'll let you get some of your hours doing visitation in your local church. So I worked for Warren Wilson Presbyterian Church and college chaplain for about a year, and then a year and a half. And in that time was discerning planting a church. And part of that was because as much as I loved the Presbyterian Church, in 2008, they were still trying to figure out how they were going to care for their gay and lesbian clergy and parishioners. And I was not interested in being in the middle of that discernment. Like I'm on the other side of that at that point. And it's interesting because I really love and appreciate my colleagues who serve in places that help people through that processing. But I am deeply clear that my work is on the other side of it. It is for the wounded, the people who come for healing and wholeness and healthy theology. And so that's where my work is. But it doesn't happen, right? It's parallel paths happening at the same time. If we want the world to change for our queer siblings, if we want queer folks to have the full and abundance of life, then those things are happening at the same time. We're helping healing happen, but we are also changing what people proclaim has to be the story of the church and how we treat gay and lesbian folks.
So earlier you had said when you discerned your call to ministry, can you define or help me out? What does that mean?
Sure. In the mainline church, there are processes for people who feel that they've been called to ministry, and they situate you with a committee of people in your church.
Meaning like the Spirit of God is calling you to something. Okay, gotcha.
So you would sit with people.
Like there's not a pastor up there like, hey, you want to come to ministry?
Yes.
Right,
You have people from your local church in relationship with you over that year to help you walk through conversations about whether or not you are truly called to this.
Can I order one of those?
So,
Yeah.
Where do I sign up for one of those?
well, you ask your pastor, and then your pastor creates the committee of people who walk with you through your ordination process.
Right.
Through your discernment. It's called members in discernment. You're a member in discernment. Once you have been a member in discernment, you move towards the ordination track. And it includes in the United Church of Christ an ecclesiastical council where you go before members of other churches and other leaders and you answer questions after you write an ordination paper. And then you get ordained.
Yeah.
What brought you guys here? Because you went from beach to snow to cold and then mountains.
Yeah. My husband, his first job was for being a professor, was at the University of North Carolina at Asheville. And he was deciding between 4 different places. He went to school at Hope College, which is a conservative Christian college in Holland, Michigan. And he had gotten a job there. He had gotten a job at Little Apple, the Kansas that's in the Manhattan. There,
Oh, okay.
I don't know if it's UK, which one it is. Whichever the university is that's in Little Apple in Manhattan, Kansas. I just don't know which, how
which one it is. Yeah,
they're
like
either the University of Kansas or the Kansas State University. I don't know.
there's the University of Washington and Washington
So-
State University. Which one's where?
Yeah, I don't know enough about that. I also didn't want to move to the Little Apple. As you can see, I didn't find out more information about it. So I am a big city person. Like I loved going to Chicago when I was in seminary. My husband is not a big city person. He hates big cities. And so he was like, look, Kansas. And I was like, no. I was like, that is not where I'm thinking we should move. His other options were University of North Carolina at Charlotte and then University of North Carolina at Asheville. And we looked at both of these locations and we were like, why would you move to the place? Like, why would you move to Charlotte if you could move to the place that people retire to? Why not start there?
Yeah.
Right. And so Jeff has a deep passion for hiking, cycling. The outdoors to him are hugely important. He gets the benefit of those experiences, especially as a tenured professor. His summers have more time, and the way schedules are set up in college, right, for kids to benefit them, also benefits professors, gives them time that might allow them a free Tuesday afternoon to go cycling, or in ways that most people in their 9-to-5 jobs aren't going to get that. So we moved here for his work. And then we got here and we're like, oh, we cannot afford to live here. And that was in 2007. So I mean, it's like a joke to even say that right now.
Right.
Yeah.
But we moved here and we've loved it. We've lived in the same house. We had our second kid here at Mission Hospital. And we experience a lot of the goodness of the mountain community and its people, the topography.
Yeah.
The
absolutely.
geological fascinations.
His specialty.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
Do you have anything you want to ask before I get into more touchy subjects?
Oh no,
No, seriously.
no, I don't. I was just trying to guide her away from the touchy subjects. But if you want to just dive right in,
Dude, Sara Wilcox is ready. She's
ahead.
fine.
Ruh-roh.
Okay.
No. This is actually just a serious question. Okay.
okay, I like serious.
So I was raised in. First of all, I was in an atheist home, and then I had a salvation experience, and then I started going to Baptist churches. So pretty much, I'm primarily Baptist. That's what I was raised in. Okay, now I don't necessarily affiliate myself with the Baptists today. I have a different eschatological position. I don't even know where I fit really in regard to that. But predominantly in the Southern Baptist Church, women are not allowed to be pastors, right? So did you assume this question might be asked?
No.
Well, that's why
I don't even know where you're going with this.
I just have a
I
question.
love being unprepared.
That's what makes it real. So no, but I just want to know, like,
Yeah.
do you encounter this in where we live? Has anybody ever looked at you and challenged you on it? Because I'm not challenging you on it. I don't have an issue with
Yeah.
it whatsoever.
Great.
At all. I just am wondering.
Thank you.
But listen, not that you need. I'm trying to lower the uncomfortability of it by saying I don't have an issue with it, but I was raised in a place that did. So I'm asking, have you ever
Yeah.
encountered it?
So It's interesting because I remember being in seminary and like someone was talking about how women were, subjugated and they were mistreated. And I was like, what? That's never happened to me. And literally I was like 26, like it had never happened to me. I grew up in a fairly liberal home where people like honored women. I had a very independent, strong woman for a mother who made enough money to support our families, to send us to college. She taught me that women can actually do what men do, right? So it was never in me that there was something wrong, right? It was not in me that it wasn't not in my imagination, right? Once it became in my imagination, I didn't think, oh, but no. And if I was going to get an oh, but no, coming to the South definitely gives some of that. I'm also aware in the South, like I have been asked, recently I was asked to participate in something, and I said, I actually do not think I am the proper person for this. Like you are trying to change minds, and I would recommend this person, this person, this person, this person, and this person. You will notice they are all men. The people whose minds you want to change will need to hear their voices, not mine.
Okay.
Because I will not help them change. Like the confirmation bias shuts them down before we ever get there.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that that's real. It's here. I don't think I'm kept from my work in any significant way because of it.
I was also curious if you've ever, because normally like around here, you're going to get there's going to be biblical argument, like they're going to use verses of scripture and all. I was wondering if you'd ever encountered that. And you're a progressive theologian, right? She's a process theologian. So I was just wondering, like, if you like, do you defend it biblically, or you just don't even? Do you see what I mean?
Oh, well, I mean, I think you can proof text anything, and clearly there is scripture, 1 Timothy, right? Like,
Yeah,
I mean,
of course.
you get stuff that suggests the submission of women,
Sure.
that women don't get to talk, women don't get to preach. I think that I think there's probably different ways we understand the Bible to
Right.
start, and that kind of disrupts some of my concern about what's there.
Yeah.
And I think that Jesus, the experience of Jesus, the experience of resurrection, the experience of the early church had women who were central to it. I don't think Jesus was like, you know what, we should get together like a council of people. We should have a Vatican. Let's create a little country called the Vatican too. Well, also let's have bishops. And
That's really fascinating. That was part of Constantine's
Right.
the ornate process of the imperialization of the Catholic Church came about because of Constantine. Prior to that and the Council of Nicaea, churches were small. They met in homes. We've read about this over and over. They met in crypts. There was a sense of egalitarianism and equality from pastorate to the congregation. It was only when Constantine sort of injected the church with imperialism, like the wafting of incense. That's what you would do in a kingship. that was part of the process of the empire, how you honored a king, and like all the ornate jewelry, and like having like the pastor or the bishops and the clergy wearing like these very ornate gowns and stuff. That was all sort of a mimicry of what it looked like, of the hierarchy of the kingship and of that authority. So that's always been so fascinating to me, because like I don't read any piece of Jesus's ministry where he's like, I mean, it certainly shows up in Hebrew Bible, the Sanhedrin and all of the garb and like the chest plates that are inlaid with certain kinds of emeralds and stones and such. But they also had spiritual significance. It wasn't just about like looking as gaudy and ornate as you possibly could. So it's always been so fascinating to me, like that piece of it.
That's been the struggle for me, is that most of the people that I know within the community that I grew up in, that there's only one lens that you can work in, and that is the biblical lens. It is the inerrant word of God. A lot of them is that it's King James version. And so I've been struggling trying to find ways to communicate it, because I believe that women can be pastors, and I believe that it's actually scriptural. And the reason I say that is because what a prophetess was and what a deaconess was. Like, these are real things that we can read in the Bible. And if you want to use your Strong's Concordance, you can find what the real meanings of these words were. And you can put them in their context and say, this prophetess was speaking, so whatever Paul was saying most likely had something to do with a particular culture and a particular time with a particular church or a particular minister where he was. Titus was in Crete or wherever Timothy was at the time. So like, I can see that and I can use the Bible. My struggle is like, when we're trying to love the marginalized and we feel sometimes like the church, it feels like they're given a lot of hate, but a lot of times it's just because they're trying to hold so hard to the truth that they believe is true. And that's when I was able to forgive a lot of people. I was like, man, they're doing what they think is right and the best. And they're telling me, and this is their way of loving me. And it feels weird. But if you like, for me, it's to stop. The best way I can describe this is going to sound so weird, but I went to my doctor the other day and she told me that she looked at me in my face and she said, you're overweight, but it's not your fault. And I was like, yeah, I mean, Billy's laughing because like, well, I was the one eating all the cheeseburgers. Like, so I thought it was my fault.
It's little Debbie.
But what she was saying, is that the latest science has been pointing to that it's hormone issues. Okay, that everybody is different and everybody.
Can I have that? Can that be my problem?
Yes,
it is.
Can that
but
be
that's
why
the
I
point.
can't
Like,
lose these 25 pounds?
So these hormones make you eat a specific. I have a reason for saying this. Okay,
Yeah.
so these hormones that come in, they send off these little signals in our minds, and it says, "I need more carbohydrates," or "I need more sugars," or "I need this," whatever it is. And then you're putting on weight or whatever, but your brain's still telling you the same thing. And a lot of people beat themselves up, like, "I don't want to do that. That's not what I want," but they're going to do it anyway, and then they feel bad, and it's a constant battle. Right. Check this out. So whenever my doctor fully explained it to me, she told me that she had several women that cried when she told them this. But here was the miracle. They suddenly saw obesity like a disease, and now it was something that they wanted to treat. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yes.
There's a difference.
There's a difference between treating it and correcting it.
That's right. If you're treating it, now you can attack it in a totally different way, and it sets you free of it.
There is not a single person that taught me a toxic theology as a child that was doing it out of a desire to harm. Just like that spoon that was hanging on the back of my mom's kitchen door.
Yeah.
It never occurred to her that that was causing harm.
Right.
She truly believed that was the best possible way to love me and correct me.
Right.
But if you ask her now, would she take that spoon to my 4-year-old? She would tell you no.
Right. That's right.
So it's the same with our theology. And I think that's part of the problem that we run into, like you said, when we become so polarized, is instead of recognizing that everybody who has had an encounter with Jesus and loves Jesus, every one of them, is just trying to figure out how to live that message the best way they know how with the information they were given. I think it is very rare that you have a person intentionally trying to cause harm with a toxic theology, I think.
I agree 100%, but the problem is being a good person on the inside is absolutely meaningless. It doesn't matter.
Well,
it doesn't. And you know what? You know where I learned that from? A Batman movie.
1 John 3:16.
It's absolutely, but it's
Listen,
absolutely meaningless.
Yeah, I mean,
it doesn't matter how good your intentions, what you think. That doesn't matter. If you're harming people, that is it. That's full stop. That's full stop.
Yeah, but again,
it doesn't matter where it comes from.
I understand, but it's based on a definition, what you're calling a definition of harm. So look at it this way.
Definitions are the heat death of conversation, first off.
Well, you're right, but my point is that if somebody thinks that your eternal soul is what's on the line, and so they're willing to say, like, you need to hear this because it's the truth.
Oh, I'm not talking like that. Doesn't sound like the sort of harm that I'm talking about. If you want to talk about definitions,
I was just thinking like fear of hell was horrible when I was a child.
Yeah, but you're talking about Sorry. You were asking a question about how Sarah handles the toxic theologies of women should not have a space of leadership
I was just
and
curious
using the Bible and how she handles that.
I was just curious if you had ever encountered it and how you responded, and if it was a response that, I was just curious.
Especially in the South. In the South,
Well, in Southern Baptist churches around where I'm at.
golly, they
Yeah.
preach it all
Man,
the time.
I live in a very myopic world.
We
just
did
so
the
you
thing
know,
we
I
did where we
really
rabbit
do.
trailed off in this direction, and so I was just trying to
Yeah.
So now that you moved to the South, were you confronted by it? 'Cause we don't
Well,
know
she's
if
saying
you
no.
like
She already
introduce
answered that
yourself
question.
always as a
Yeah.
pastor.
Oh, yeah, for the most part. I mean, it's not a secret I keep. But I don't know.
Well, it's not like a recently. I'm a doctor. Call me doctor. So I know most pastors in some cases don't lead with it. Some do.
Oh, I do not lead. I will tell you where I do not lead with it, on the pickleball court.
I
Yeah,
gotcha.
that's an interesting one.
Yeah.
You're a pastor?
Yeah. Yeah. You kind of spiked that
Yep.
hard on me.
But yeah, so I don't think I put myself in places where I'm largely being questioned
Sure.
about the legitimacy of my pastorate.
Yeah.
It's just it's not where I serve.
It's like you answered before. You
Yeah.
just said, hey, you'll be better served
Yeah.
by going with one of these 5 men.
Yeah.
Which
so
is
you took
brilliant.
yourself out of it.
I think it's brilliant that you did that. And I would love at another time to hear more specifics about that situation, because that's really amazing that you were able to be like, you know what? I understand the cultural context that we're working within here. And I recognize that even though it's unfair and unreasonable that me being a female would be a hindrance to this, I recognize that it is. And so I'm just going to, but
It's the sort of wisdom that's
Yeah.
easy to recognize in others and very hard to find in yourself.
because I think it speaks to, so what we're getting at here too is like, so for you, Rick, when you are confronted with a theological conversation that you
I'm
have
confronted with what she's doing more than she's being confronted for being it.
that's what I mean. So,
Yes.
and this is something that I notice as well. Yeah.
Can you imagine the hell
Yeah.
I'm going to get for having her on the program? From all of the conservative people
Yeah.
that
It's
church
okay.
people that I know,
You're going to kick her off the show too. So
never.
Come over notes.
I want you
I'm just
back.
kidding.
Come back.
No, but what I mean is I've noticed this too. I was talking to my husband about this the other day. A lot of the theological debates and the like toe to toe and the conversation, it does tend to dominate the masculine approach to having a conversation. For me, if I'm in a moment with somebody where I recognize I am now having a conversation with your deeply held theological belief that is like fundamentally tied to your sense of safety and correctness in the world, and it is going to be in confrontation with my theological belief that is inherently tied to my sense of safety and correctness with the world, we aren't going to love each other through that conversation if we're not both in agreement about the fact that these deeply held beliefs are because it makes us feel safe and loved and all this other stuff. And so I choose simply not to enter into those theological conversations. I'll just walk away from that conversation, or I'll just be like, I'm going to let the men speak this one. I'm not going to try and defend my right to have an opinion as a female. I'm not going to try and necessarily defend some of the reasons why I believe the things I do socially and how I can root that back to the Bible. Because if it's not going to produce loving connection and change, if it's just going to make somebody mad and madder, I don't know that it's not worth anybody's time. Nobody's going to win in that conversation.
Yeah.
And so I just don't engage. So if you want to get angry and argue people on Sarah's behalf,
No, I don't get angry at all.
That's wonderful. But I mean, I think
Yeah.
that's kind of what you're getting at is like how if she's confronted.
I was curious how if
Yeah.
she was ever put into that position and how she came back biblically. Like, what did you say scripturally because you're dealing with people where scripture is like, this is the lens that we're talking through, right?
Yeah.
That's the kind of people. I started a conversational podcast on the Bible like a moron, and decided to engage all kinds of different things. And when I did, I started learning really fast just how you just described it perfectly. It's like a safety net. There's a feeling of safety once you
it's called
get
the backfire effect.
Yeah, and it's like
It's also a sport.
Yeah, it is.
It's also a
It is.
sport.
Yeah, I watch it on Facebook all the time. It's just a sport.
It's and people, but the problem is people engage with it as sport. that type of conversation, but do not have any self-recognition that that's what they're doing.
And so, exactly. And one of the things that I discovered, that's why I do a lot of traveling and meeting these people face to face. Some of the most hardcore people for sport, when you get in front of their
Sure,
face and you're
different.
dealing with them,
Absolutely.
it's night and day.
Yeah, treat you like a
And
human.
so I'm
Yep.
like, how do I bridge the gap between that? Because I've met some amazing people that they're fierce when it comes to this, but like they're
That women shouldn't have spaces of leadership specifically?
no, not just,
No, just
I mean, just
theological.
theological
General.
things.
Okay, yeah.
Certain
Yeah,
theological.
theological dogmas,
Let's
hills
talk about
that they are
eschatology.
ready to die
Eschatology
on.
is a huge
Oh, yeah.
problem for a lot of us.
Lots of hills.
And
with
so
dead
having
bodies on
that discussion
topic.
about eschatology can
Mhm.
get really, really weird.
Mhm.
I was just curious if Sarah had ever encountered it and what her answers were.
So
I
Sure,
get
so-
in these cases all the time.
So the interesting thing is that when someone comes to me and says, "This is what the Bible says,"
Yes.
I usually say, "We could do this, but I think we have a fundamental difference about how we understand the Bible."
Yeah. Right.
Right? And so nothing like this is not actually a word. Conversation is not going to get anywhere.
Yes.
Because I do not believe that the Bible is the inerrant word of God.
Mhm.
Like there was a children's sermon the other day, and I forget what. Oh, well, I was talking about idolatry.
Yeah.
And actually, the funny thing is somebody asked me, "Did God send you the Bible?" I think they thought like through Amazon, like in
Yeah.
a mailer. And I was like, "Yeah." I go, "That's such an interesting question." I said, you know, there's a lot to the story of our Bibles and how we got our Bibles, because our Bible is a lot of stories that have been put together. And there were people who got together and got to make a decision about what got in that Bible.
Mhm.
So the Bible is very important, but it also is limited by the people who put it in, right? And God inspired the people who did that. God plays a role in that. It's not the only thing that is sacred, right? You will find other things that are sacred and meaningful. And at one point I'm like, and in the Catholic Bibles, they have the Apocrypha. My husband's like, "Do not tell kids about the Apocrypha."
That was funny.
During the kids' time.
During kids, you said that during kids' time
So,
too. You're like, we're not going to talk
but
about
I mean,
the Apocrypha.
it was interesting because I said to my husband, "You know what? I get what you're saying. There was a lot that went in that kids' time. Too much. Like I asked a question, they derailed all of a sudden I had to talk about the Bible. It went out of control, right? Like, and I said, but here's what I want these kids to take away.
Mhm.
When someone says, it was in the Bible, God said it, that's what it is, right? Our kids go, okay, well, that's not exactly what the Bible is. The Bible isn't God's words to the people. They are the story of God's people. And when people say it's inerrant, I'm like, it's fascinating how contradictory it is. Like, it isn't inerrant. It's full. It's full of God's stories. There isn't an error to a story. It's a story. And some of it has some historical truth, but I will tell you the history is going to look different. Like 2025 is going to look different from where you sat in the history books, right? And someone got to write the story, Israelites, right? Like Israelites were writing these stories. People engaged in prophetic works in the Israelite community wrote these stories, or the new communities of Jewish people, for the most part, who were breaking out of their Jewish community to follow Jesus. And then the ways it transferred into our Gentile that had the Roman occupation on top of it, right? Like the story matters, context, all of that is within it. And most people aren't doing any of that work. An example of this that I actually think, I was thinking about this earlier. So does anyone have a child age, like a fifth grader, younger? Okay, so these kids, so when your kids are in elementary school now and they teach them math, they teach them core math or whatever it's called.
Yep.
And all the
Common Core.
parents,
Yeah.
Common Core.
Common Core. There
Yes.
we go. And if you
I saw it coming when I was in teaching school, and I was like, this is going to be a disaster.
So, but here's the thing about Common Core. Common Core teaches kids how to do math. It teaches them to think math. It is not an algorithm that's memorized. And most people approach their Bibles like a memorized algorithm.
Yep.
They do not approach it like Common Core math. They are not thinking theologically. They are not thinking curiously. They are not thinking about God's people, about the times in which people were writing these stories, experiencing these things, about who was telling the story, the person who was the oppressed or the oppressor. All of those things are part of any story, and without the fullness of them, we get a half-truth, which is an interesting thing to think about in today's moment of history in which we are trying to teach people half-truths about our country. Bring back it around.
Yeah, good job. She said it quietly, but she's better at podcasting than a lot of people.
Yeah.
Are you going to start your own now?
No,
You should,
absolutely
totally.
not. Absolutely
You should
not.
totally.
This would be the word. The only thing I liked about this was that I could wear whatever I wanted.
Because no one was going to look at you.
Exactly.
It's the
I was
beauty of the
like,
audio
I was like, there's
podcast.
going to be no video on this thing,
Yeah.
so I'll wear whatever I want, and I'll just put my hair in a ponytail.
Yeah. I mean, again, it's such a myopic view. Is that the right word?
Opic.
Myopic? Where it's just like a singular focus. Let's just say such a singular focus. Being told that the Bible is the inerrant word of God as a child and raised with that. And then being told that the King James Version is the only real version that you should focus on. And it becomes such a core thing that I have a physical response when I hear something other. I have to work. It's like it's like going into
You get
therapy.
triggered.
I have to work to overcome what was instilled in me.
Sure.
Do you see what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
And so that's been like this since the Burros started. That's what it's been. It's just been over and over, just constant relearning and relearning, and wanting to feeling that fear,
Oh, yeah. Like you're
That-
going to get spanked.
It's just the fear.
You're like God.
I'm not.
Like you're going to displease God.
No,
You're going to believe something
No,
wrong.
seriously, it has nothing to do with God. It's got nothing to do with my family or anything. It's literally a physical response. It's just a physical response.
Wow.
I don't know why, but it's deeply ingrained in me. You tell me that the Bible's not inerrant, that's a problem. But what I'm thinking in my mind is what you're saying, is that these are stories. And I've started reading the Bible, especially the Old Testament, in like this really radical new way, and seeing like these near time fulfillments, and then seeing like how these stories are compounding and recapitulating, and how how amazing the story of Jesus actually is, and like seeing it in a whole new light. And it's such a beautiful thing, but yet I still have those old physical feelings of when people say things. Do you understand what I mean?
I do. In fact, that would go back to you cannot escape your religion without it like taking your life in a way.
Yeah, yeah.
That you would live in fear, right? Is a part of I think the importance of a place like the church that I pastor is that it is another story that people can choose, because the story that is being told is not, it is deficient as a container for the life, ministry, and death of Jesus Christ. Right? And
we call it the highlight reel. It's like watching a highlight reel all the time when you read the Bible. There's so much other stuff that's going on.
Oh, yeah.
That, that's what makes The Chosen so awesome, because they kind of like slow it down and break it down and give it a storyline.
Yeah.
You ever watched it?
It's speculative.
Oh, really?
Oh, my goodness.
I think I was told to watch it, but
I
I
was
love
told
that
to
show.
watch it too, and I,
I mean,
just keep forgetting.
Yeah,
I can't
so-
get around to it.
Kind of like Star
So,
Wars. We
yeah.
tell you to watch it, but it doesn't matter.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just be real. You'd
Yeah.
rather
Yeah.
experience Jesus than watch him on TV anyway.
There you
so
go.
I gotcha.
Yeah, because
I can't quite convince Aurora. I can't quite get the toddlers to sit down and watch it, since they're with me all of the time.
All the
some people
time.
don't want their own mental picture of Christ to be changed, and I've recently been told that they don't want to watch it because they don't want to think, when they think of Jesus, to think of that character. And I'm like, well, really?
Well, I mean, but think about what Sarah said earlier about when we were talking about Leviticus. Yeah, that's the world he comes from.
Yeah.
That's he was in the Old Testament. He was an Old Testament
Oh,
prophet.
we've been.
He's from that world,
we've
right?
been kicking on that
we
one.
we play that all the time.
Yeah, we do.
Well, and also, right, for me, the thing that we follow in Jesus is Christic consciousness. It is not like Jesus is the human embodiment of a consciousness that was not limited to him. Like, I remember someone handing me a book called The Pagan Christ and me being like, well, what is this?
Yeah.
Right. But what it opened up for me was like eliminating this need for Jesus to be the one person in history, right? For all things. Jesus was imbued with, carried, held, defined by, and contained Christ. But Jesus is not Christ only. Right? Christ is more than
I know
Jesus.
exactly what you're saying.
And
I understand
so-
what you mean.
So when we talk about Jesus, right? Like even the, gosh, he's going to look different, right? It's like, and by the way, he's not white.
All right.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh,
Totally.
right? Like that's a big surprise.
He's not an American.
He doesn't have blue eyes. I cannot believe it.
And long blonde hair.
And he probably was not wearing a white robe. I mean, just saying. We've dressed up Jesus we cleaned Jesus up so he could hang out in our stained glass windows. And we could come and praise him every week.
Yeah.
And we could refuse to follow him or receive
Yeah.
the Christic consciousness that comes through that kind of discipleship.
The discipleship piece. That's the thing. And we were talking about this in our last Sandbox episode.
Yep.
The way that people will treat like their confession of faith as like, I've said the magic words, so now I'm good. And I don't have to do anything more. Except instead of recognizing it's a process of discipleship and being willing to try to, in greater and greater measures, also embody that Christ consciousness as we are willing as individuals to allow ourselves to move on from glory to glory. Because Jesus was what? The firstborn among many brethren. Like we are all, Jesus is like, look, I'm God, you're God, we're all God now. That's what I came here to do.
Yeah.
But it also requires an individual that's made a decision to pursue that path of going from glory to glory to exercise a process of discipleship that necessitates a level of change on the inside.
Yeah, like discipleship has been equated with the Great Commission. Like I got to get out there and I got to save all the souls. Right. And in that, it completely minimizes the transformational call to our own ways of being.
Yes.
Right. It justifies who we are.
Right.
Because it's not about us. It's about them. Right? I'm going to preach that sermon to the little apostate in the back, the little lady pastor.
Yeah.
Because she's the one who needs to hear this. There's nobody in here who needs to actually hear the message. Now, it's interesting you guys even say that because I always think about these series that they do because there's not a lectionary that's usually followed in most of the evangelical churches. So I feel like I have this like real kind of interest in these series where you get to like preach about the fruits of the spirits and, you know, like I'm interested in the series part. And if it is also imbued with the atonement theology as the primary actual message in those messages. Yep.
I was going to say, I found it to be so.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. It's usually
Well, I have always had pastors who did exegetical, line by line.
Right.
Just go verse by verse. And so I guess I haven't been.
We keep coming to that, don't we?
Yes.
We always come back to I live in this really weird little bubble.
I guess my husband and I have chosen fairly good churches.
Yeah,
I mean,
you have.
with very good people who we're going to do. Some days we get through 2 verses or half a verse, and we just did Fruits of the Spirit because we were in Galatians. So it took him 2 weeks to go through. I was like, did you listen to our podcast? But, to go through just the fruit of the Spirit, which is 1.5 verses.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So, what you're saying, I mean, I guess I just don't see it where I've been.
Our experience, it always comes to that because an altar call is a It's a necessary part of the service. So it's almost like it has to turn into that in order to get, because you don't want to let that soul out that's going to be lost. That's the
It's a
thought.
very scripted
It's
process.
the thought. Yeah.
Play the hits, baby.
That you got to play the hits.
Yeah.
But it's also, it's weird. It's like when that's all you know.
That's it.
You know what's crazy? I don't know what the word lectionary is. This is a word.
Lectionary?
Yeah, that's a new word for me because I grew up Assemblies of God. And so I have recently come to the awareness that there are congregations that will get like a 3-year lectionary and your topics for preaching have been assigned in some way. And what's funny,
it's a printout. It's a
I didn't
full
know
printout,
that.
CD.
I didn't know that.
Slides.
So
PowerPoint.
I didn't know that. So but I'm listening now to Sarah saying how it's for her who is familiar with the lectionary process, how weird it would be to have the evangelical approach, which is doing these series, although that's what I'm familiar with. And I'm having this aha moment because on my show, what do? I do a series.
Yeah.
I pick a topic.
Oh,
and I
yeah.
do 3 or 4 episodes on it.
I do
and
series.
I'm like, oh no.
I do series too.
It's so deep. It's so
Yeah.
deep.
So we're not going to do a second episode. We're going to wrap this one up here in just a second. We have 15 minutes before we close out. Can I ask one more question?
Of course.
Okay. I need to make sure I understand this correctly. Okay. So Big Daddy Carter is a universalist.
Okay.
Okay. Are you a universalist? Are you saying universalism at that church or where did I hear it? I don't know why I got it in my head, but in my head I heard that.
I don't know that
It was
I
on
said
Pentecost? No, I don't know if is there something that you read?
universalism in the service.
I mean,
but
I'm saying it's me. I'm just trying to figure out where I heard it. I was in the church and I thought
maybe
that
you experienced it.
that you were universal, like there was universalism there.
No, there's a Unitarian Universalist is the sort of, it's outside of the Christian tradition. It holds some of Jesus' teachings, but is a little bit more to the left of, it's out of mainline Christianity.
Yes.
He's talking about the theology of universalism.
Correct.
Yes.
But so when you said universalism or Unitarian,
not Unitarian, but universalism. I don't know if it was something that I heard whenever it was Pentecost and everybody was reading everything, but I left with the sense that universalism was where this church stood when it came to salvation. Everyone was to go to the Lord.
There's no need to accept Jesus Christ
not in
because
the
Jesus
same
did
way.
it once and for all. It's all
Yes.
done. Everything's done.
Yes.
Nobody's going to go to hell.
I'm not arguing. He's a universalist. He's my
that's
best
his
friend.
universalist.
I'm just asking you if that's what your church does as well.
Well, it's interesting. I might say something like, so I'm not sure we understand the Bible exactly the same.
Here we go.
This is not, it's not, I don't preach universalism.
Okay.
Because I don't believe that salvation is what you get when you're finally brought to the Lord in another place. That is not, so I don't need an altar call for my salvation, and I don't need to come back a time and time again for it. There's an interesting dynamic in the mainline church because people will have been baptized and they will come again and they'll say, I'd like to be baptized again. And we're like, yeah, no, we don't do that.
Yeah.
We don't need to do that. God's yes was on you from the beginning.
Yeah.
The baptism was just an affirmation of what is. It is not a thing that is more than that, right? We participate in it we change God in our affirmation of this, right? God loves, that is the embodiment of what God is. That is, so when I understand God, we probably understand God differently, I'd say, right?
Yeah.
So when you say universalism, I'm like, sure, I can get on board with that. Yeah, I guess that's what I'd say if I was going to say some of the things you say. But I don't think we say the same things. I think we really fundamentally understand the purpose of Jesus's life, ministry, and death in different ways.
Yeah.
And I don't think that they're easily compatible. I think they're at odds with each other.
Let me ask it in a negative way. Let me ask it a different way.
What would be non-compatible?
Oh, well, I think that...
so I can understand that statement.
Sure. I think that universalism, right, still can rely on, and often does, right, an atonement theology that is not central to the theology the way I understand atonement theology, the way most progressive Christians do, is not the same atonement theology that is substitutionary penal atonement atonement theory, right? This is it's not ransom theory. It is at one mint, let's say. Let's do a
Right.
Richard Rohr, like how we get right with God. But like, it's not that Jesus Christ died on a cross for our sins so that we could get to heaven. That is like a whole nother interesting thing.
I think in essence, we'd agree a lot.
Well, the thing is, this is
We
the
might
sandbox
call it a different
episode.
word, but I think we'd agree theology-wise. Based on what I've heard so far out of what you're talking about, yes, universalism is a word that probably, yes, is associated with atonement, because that's, at least from, like, say, mine and Rick's world, that's where everything is based on, is atonement.
Right.
So you get into more of the weeds of that. Is, my understanding of universalism is yes, we're to talk to have the communication about it. Yes, it's related to atonement in the mind of a person that I would talk to, and I would talk about that, but it's not. That's maybe more complicated than when I would define it, but I think we would agree on a lot of things.
But I guess the place where there's a tension in it, and I could be wrong on this, so please correct me,
That's okay.
is that it requires a primacy of Jesus and a denial of the value of other faith traditions.
A value of other faith traditions.
His wouldn't.
No.
Yours wouldn't. His
No.
wouldn't. Not
So
the way
how-
he's defined it.
So
No.
how do you define your, like, when I think about universalism,
Right.
I think that I think about Jesus, like the life, ministry, death of Jesus, solving it all for everyone.
Right.
There's no, even if you're the kid with the distended belly who never gets to hear about Jesus, it's okay. Right. If you're my Jewish neighbor, it's okay. Right. But it assumes, right, a primacy of the Christian tradition as the solution for all people.
Yes.
Right. And I don't preach that or teach that. And that is where I might push back.
You don't teach that the primacy of Christ?
I teach the primacy of Christ for me.
She's talking about
She's
leaving
teaching
room
her
for other
truth.
traditions.
Right.
I may be misunderstanding the
You see that
the
you see
framework.
that you see that everyone goes to God because of what Christ did.
Yes,
That's not what she does. That's not what she believes.
I got you.
She leaves room for other, right? Isn't that what you're saying?
I mean, I think
Other faith traditions to also have a path to God,
Right.
and a way to experience.
Buddhism,
So that's Unitarianism, isn't it?
is that,
Universalist Unitarianism believes that.
You're still routing everything back to the same place, and that's the problem. The problem is your destination, and you cannot see around it. That's what's. Am I wrong?
so.
Are you talking to Rick or are you
yeah,
talking to
I'm trying to-
Sarah?
Well, the question was for her. The statement was for the room. Was I just wrong on that?
I need you to say it again because
Yeah.
They're all going to the same place. Your point is there's not one. This is not the entirety of the option, I guess.
Well, I think we don't know what the entirety is. I think we're foolish to believe we know, first of all, what happens after we die, because I don't think we know. I think there's some mystery to that. And when people ask me, I'm always, and part of what makes conservative Christianity so comfortable is that it speaks to our greatest fear, which is usually our mortality.
right?
Like it's the answer to the question that we can't answer, right? And so so much of what has been created in the need to get our salvation, which is getting to heaven, right? Saying you believe in Jesus Christ, that he died for your sins so you can get to heaven, is to manage the fear and anxiety of our mortality. And
Instead of recognizing that a relationship with God is about how you can live better on the planet right now, not just about what's going to happen to you when you die. That the point of Christ and Christ consciousness and what he came to give us was the blessing and the gift of having a relationship with God that can help us live right and correctly now, not necessarily what happens when we die. And so if you're not obsessed with, or when you're not certain that the entirety of the message of Christ was whether or not you go to heaven or hell, because you don't believe that heaven and hell are these static realities and that there's an either or option and that there's no in between, then you're not necessarily going to be as certain that only Jesus Christ can lead you to God. You're gonna be like, okay, if the point is to live a good,
Yeah,
live a life
and
connected with God.
I don't want to get into a theological debate whatsoever right now because
Yeah.
we don't have time for that.
That's what we've been doing.
But my
I don't know
my
what podcast you're listening to.
my brain is screaming, there is no way to the Father but by me. Jesus said
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
So do we accept that verse or does he mean something else? Like, do you get what I mean?
Well,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, right, you're quoting the Gospel of John.
Right.
Yeah. Well, I mean, so if in seminary,
Yes.
right, one of the things we learn about is sort of the differences between these 4 gospel texts.
Sure.
When people say they're inerrant, I'm like, oh, really? Those,
Oh, they're really different.
right? You can't make these stories inerrant because they are the same story and they are told differently.
Yeah.
And that is because they are an evolution of that, of the witness, right?
Uh-huh.
But Matthew, Mark, and Luke are different than the Gospel of John.
Yes, they are.
And the Gospel of John is least likely to actually be the words of Jesus. So the things we harm people with
Uh-huh.
more than any other text, come from the Gospel of John. John was an evangelist. John wanted people to come to Jesus.
Yeah.
God told people that he had the best thing because
Yeah.
that's what we do when we want to get people to take the thing we have.
Yeah.
But just because we say it's the best thing doesn't mean there aren't other things and that they aren't great either.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of great, wonderful expressions of people of faith seeking goodness and mercy, justice and peace. We've set up a story about God that fundamentally is us creating God in our image.
Mm-hmm.
If your God judges people, hates people, punishes people, that's like what we do because we can't choose peace, love. It's what we do. It's when we use the spoon because we don't have a better way to do it. Part of what Jesus was calling people to was a better way.
Mm-hmm.
And that way is made known in so many paths. The Camino, right, which is the walking path that is in Spain, comes down from France. There's multiple paths, right? There are lots of Caminos. Like I went and I walked the Camino, the Portuguese way.
You did the Portuguese way?
Mm-hmm.
I did the Community
And
Francais.
there's a French
You what?
way.
I did the Francais.
There's
I
a-
did the Community
There's a
Francais.
French way. But there are all. The gift of that is, right? The Camino is the way, but there are many ways.
Mm-hmm.
There's not just one way to get to the final place.
They all end in Santiago de Compostela, but they get there and they experience different trajectories and they experience different challenges
And different people.
and different people.
And different.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But they all end up in the same place. And I think that's Jesus.
Yeah.
That's what his work on the cross and his resurrection is.
Well, and which is not what we're actually saying in here in the room. And that's what I'm having
I have-
cognitive dissonance.
I have agreed with very little
I know.
which
And
is
I
why
know
I've
that's
been
true.
super
But
quiet.
I'm sitting in here like,
because it's her
I've
story.
just been
not,
like
it's her
watching the chair in case it catches on fire.
because it's her story, not mine, and
No,
it's
no,
her
no, no.
testimony and not mine.
well, that's what I'm sitting here like, I know the tension. I knew the tension was, but I wanted to like get all up in it. You know what I mean? Like I really want to. I still want to. I
But
want
if
to get
you
up
want to, then you need to let that be a clear and
Well,
that's what the parameters
by
are.
saying out
Yeah.
loud that I'm having these
Yeah.
actual like physical experiences.
Yeah.
This is what I did in cognitive behavioral therapy too.
Yeah, sitting with that tension till
Dude,
your body
and then
can learn how
working
to be
through it and
calm
understanding
in it.
why.
Super hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why like when I was in the church, I was like, yep, this is what I've been looking for. When you're talking about like Christa consciousness, like I've so many times I've wondered, you know, like what in Christ meant, like, because by the way, all of the gospels say that, not just John, right? In Christ. And so I was like, what's the matter? Are you having a moment?
Fine.
What did I do?
No, I had a seizure. It's good. No, because this is what we were talking about the last episode. The difference between the P word, the Greek P word. Does it mean the faithfulness of Christ and
Yes.
that is our salvation?
Uh-huh.
Or is it faith in Christ? Because in the Greek, it can only be translated properly based on context. And even though the overwhelming amount of scholars point to
Yeah.
it's the faithfulness of Christ unto God that is our example, not our faith in Christ.
I'm not even talking
Well,
about.
we won't.
I'm
But
not even
that's
talking
it. But
about.
that's the Christ consciousness
I'm not
that
even
you're
talking
talking
about faith in Christ. I'm talking about abiding. I'm talking about living in, abiding in, being in. I'm not talking about just the idea of believing it. I'm talking about living in it, like being in it.
Let me tell you about my best friend. Right?
Yeah.
I can't explain it. A dead guy from 2,000 years ago has interrupted my thoughts when I'm in the fight with my husband and been like, I think you're being. He doesn't say the B word. He doesn't say that word to me. It's a mental illness.
Okay.
That's the only way I can describe it. And I know what you're talking about. Like, I have this like relationship with this thing that will stop me in my tracks and say things that to me to do that I wouldn't tell myself to do. And they every single time work out better than if I had not listened. And and we get all up here in all these conversations, but there's also this thing.
Yeah, like when I've tried to define this overwhelming love, like when I'm talking about I'm talking about an enemy, man. Like somebody that's just ready to go, and I feel this incredible, immense amount of love, and that's not me, man.
For real.
That's not me. I'm gonna kick you
I
in the
know.
nuts. I don't want to mess
I
with you
know.
right now. I got other things to do. But then like this feeling like, no, you don't. This time's for them right now. And I'm like, give this man your car. And I'm like, no, this is my favorite car. I have worked so hard for this car. I don't give away cars.
Yeah.
Yep.
Dude, I don't give away cars.
Yes, you do.
I did once.
You're like Oprah.
You get a car.
Yeah. Oh, and by the way, under your chair is a new book. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
No, I'm just trying to define
It's hard. No, I hear what
I've been
you're
trying
saying.
to define it across every
Yeah.
single position. I don't care what eschatology you are. I don't care what theology. I don't care.
But how does
I'm
it?
trying to define the experience in which I'm having, and I'm saying, are you having it too?
Yeah,
Am I just crazy?
No.
I gave my car away.
I know.
And then he ruined his life for a solid year, and now it's like the most miraculous thing. This guy his whole life is turned around, and he comes back to me and he's like, I know you said this. I don't know why it's stuck in my head. And I'm like, really? Like, I just listened to that. That's all I did. I don't give my freaking car away. And I hate that he wrecked it because I love that car.
I've been in that position.
But his life has changed.
I know. And that's
It's
the
wild,
thing.
man. What a testimony. Did you enjoy us talking during your whole testimony?
Oh my gosh.
It's all good.
We love
Have you had any fun?
Oh yeah.
Are you enjoying this?
Sure.
I love the tension. I
oh
love
my
it.
gosh.
It's harder for me than I think I recognize sometimes.
Yeah.
Just like it's like the disparity in the room. It's not necessarily the particular conversations, but the disparity in the room. I'm over here like I got a fidget spinner out. I've just been with that for 20 minutes.
So the nervous energy can go somewhere.
Yeah.
I know. I had like a micro seizure just a second ago. That's,
I admire what your ministry is doing, and I don't really care about a lot of different things. I don't need you to be perfectly correct on these certain types of words. I don't care.
Yeah.
What you're doing in that community is unbelievable. I love it. I love that. You know what I mean? I can get on board with that. You know what I'm saying?
Can I ask a question about our ministry? I kind of say our ministry because I've not done the little thing where I stand up in front of everybody and I sign a piece of paper.
You
but
don't sign, there's no paper to sign.
But you know what I mean? But in my head, in my heart, I joined when I went to the new members meeting. I thought that's what I was doing. I found out later that I was supposed to stand up there and read the paper. So the last time we had one of those, I just
You have
sat
to
there and read
define
it.
lectionary. That's the
I sat
first
there and
thing
read
on
it
the
in the
list.
congregation for myself. But I have a name tag. Doesn't that count for something?
Yeah, it does.
Yeah. I volunteer to play accordion for the kids on Sunday. That's something. Yeah.
Yep.
So I'm a member now.
Do
So
you
I'm
wear
going to say
red
our
nose
ministry.
when you play it?
Well,
You
and
wear
we would
red
call
nose
you a
when you play
partner.
it?
No.
We would call you a partner. We don't even call you a member.
That's right, a partner. So in the ministry that I'm a partner of, we have donated a big chunk of our land and building tiny homes on them
Yeah,
with
which is
beloved
so killer.
Asheville so that to provide housing for the unhoused? That's a big piece of the ministry.
There's a Native American concept behind it too, right?
Yes.
Some of that land was stolen and you're giving it back.
Correct.
Yeah. There's a whole other side to that.
My question is, when them people gonna move in?
I know.
And is it transitionary housing or it's permanent housing? The idea
is that people would move in and they will leave when they are ready. And one of the things I think that's really important is that it is not land of the skies project, right? People need to always have their name on things, right? Land of the Sky stewards that land. And in stewarding that land, we found a need. There was a need that existed. It was named by Beloved. And so we yielded an acre of property to them, and they own that property now. It is not our property. They have done the work, and we have joined their volunteer crews, and we have, right? But we are not responsible for those homes. We are partners in helping to make them happen. And we will be partners in covenant with the people who live there. So my understanding is that Pisgah Legal is responsible for deciding, like they got the applications and they'll go through it. But the applications are very different because the applications included expectations around being community and a neighbor. So how do you talk about your life and the ways that you've been in community and a neighbor? It is disrupting the idolatry of independence and individualism that has been marked as the Christian experience and the American experience. None of that is the Jesus experience. There's just not. Jesus wasn't independent, and
he had a whole community of people.
He had a whole community of people. And so there will be, the folks will pay their rent. When they pay their rent, a portion of their rent will go into a trust, allowing them to earn equity like homeowners would earn equity. So when they want to leave, they would be able to use it for a first and last month's rent, which is the thing that keeps people out of the housing market.
That's right. Is being able to have like $1,000 to slap down at the beginning. So they'll be able to move in without that.
$1,000.
Yeah,
I know.
That's so sweet.
Yeah. But I mean, so they'll be able to move in just without any money. But
most of them will have a small
without a
rent.
down payment.
Yes, they will have Yes.
They won't
So
have a
they'll
down
move in.
payment. So they'll be able to move in and just pay their rent.
Yeah, and it will be a
portion
low
of that
rent.
Very low. But a portion of that will also be set aside so that when they are ready to transition out of that community and into another community, or perhaps even buy up their own home, they will be given back a portion of their rent.
So
that's why join the church.
Also, though,
Cool.
you
Very
could
cool.
use it. You
awesome.
could use it for, you're creating equity, right? You could use it for school, for medical bills, the same things that people
Whatever
of
you want.
privilege use their equity for. Right.
Whatever you want to use that money for. Yeah.
You know, the Matthew Desmond wrote the book Evicted. It's such a clear the housing market in this country is its own, like it is so unjust. It is remarkable, and it reinforces privilege over and over and over. And there should be no question as to why we are where we are right now, which is a place where the inequity of wealth is so great, a tipping point where we're in a deeply dangerous place because you can't have that kind of spread without people who have nothing or very little doing what they have to do to survive. And that will make a lot of people who have enough very uncomfortable.
It sounds like 1880s London.
Well,
England.
welcome. Or it could be 2024-ish, 2025 Octavia Butler Parable of the Sower, which, fascinating if you've not read it.
I haven't.
Is like a prediction of this moment in history, written by an African-American woman long before 2025, and one of the authoritarian leader at the Times slogan is "Make America Great Again."
When did she write this?
1990s maybe.
Wow.
The Black women are seers. I am deeply
coming
a believer.
on. I bet you didn't know very soon. I'm going to put that on. I'm going to do that. I'm going to look this up.
Octavia Butler.
Can't wait. I'm going to do it.
All right.
What a wonderful time. Thank you so much for coming out here.
you.
I hope you've enjoyed yourself.
Oh, I have. I'm all good for like being in spaces of difference. I appreciate people capacities to sit and be in conversation
Yeah.
and hear each other.
Right.
Yes. I'll be seeing you soon.
All right.
Yeah.
Because you're going to come to church
That's right.
before the year's up?
No, I'm definitely coming.
Okay.
I'm
You're not
leaving
going to
for
be a
Montana. When I
creaster?
get back from Montana,
Creaster?
no,
Creaster.
nope, I'm not going to do it.
We love the creasters too.
Yeah.
I mean, we love everybody.
I'm gonna.
That's right.
What do you do?
Yeah,
It was,
yeah.
I was actually, we were doing an immigration training, like a
Yeah.
training, like what happens if ICE comes to our community. We do not have a high population of Latinx folks in our community, but I was like, one of the things you will do is you will just be us. You will stop the ICE agent at the door and you will say, "Oh my gosh, we are so glad you're here. Can we get you a name tag? Do you mind taking off your mask? It's a little concerning that you're masked. Can you identify? You don't want to
Yeah.
say your name? Okay, that's concerning. Where?" And then you make very clear that we have a person unwilling to identify themselves masked and probably the ICE, so that we can then make sure we protect our undocumented.
Feels like Schindler's List. You remember Schindler's List?
Oh, I sure do. And you've made the connection, not me.
Yeah. No, that's what I'm saying though. It feels like Schindler's List.
Yeah, especially with
The way-
actual citizens being
Yep.
detained
yep.
without charge or any
Right.
Yeah.
apparent right to trial. That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's insane. I don't
Deeply
care.
alarming.
I don't care who they were. That's not the point.
Yep.
Well, let's end it on that high note.
Yeah. All right.
Thank you so much for being on here.
Absolutely.
I really appreciate it.
It's good
Billy,
to meet y'all.
I think I'll just say buenos noches, como estes.
I don't even know what that means either. Yeah, Sarita,
Yo hablo español muy bien.
See,
I'm going to get Jump Speak, and in 130 hours, I'm going to know the Spanish language. That is an app. I don't know if you know that.
I don't.
Jump Speak, guys. Check it out. I'm not getting any money for it.
All right.
Andy, thanks for
Why
being
don't
here.
you just have
Thank you.
a chip planted into your brain so you can learn how to?
That's
I
actually,
don't think he needs anything else in his brain.
yeah. Oh, if I only had a brain. Big Daddy, thank you for driving
yeah.
up.
Yeah, man.
Tiziana, love you.
love you too.
All right, guys. Well, we will talk to you again next time on the
Burros notes.
From the Other Side of Berea.
Bye, y'all.
Get it all in.
Peace
Oh my
out.
gosh.
Awesome.
Folks, if you're enjoying this episode, you might really enjoy some of the benefits that come with being a Patreon subscriber. Over at patreon.com, we have different levels of membership, and starting for as low as $2 a month, you'll get access to things like all of the notes that I use to make these episodes, bits of script that didn't make it into the show, and even bibliographies about the books that I read to get where I'm going. Through Patreon, you even have access to some of the video that we take for the show. So some of those interviews that you like so well, you'll get to watch them in real time. So once again, head over to patreon.com/NFTOS, as in Notes from the Other Side. That's patreon.com/NFTOS for more information about becoming a Patreon subscriber to this show. Thanks, guys. Catch you later.